Excellent. We're nearly coming to the end of all of the functionality that we need for our app, our Pizzeria app. The only thing that I think that we should do now is when we've got our pizza detail page up, we should have a button here that will then allow us to edit our pizza. Now, what are we going to need for this? Well, we're going to need obviously a button on the page here. We're also going to need kind of a new page with a form to edit our pizzas. And then we're going to have to kind of link them up and make that, that API call to the edit endpoint of our backend of the Pizzeria API. Let's start by creating that new form that will allow us to edit our pizzas. Well, we've actually already got a form here. We've got our pizza form that we're currently using to add new pizzas to the database. Wouldn't it be great if we could reuse all of the functionality from that to save us having to actually create a whole new page and write all of the code for it? So the way that I'm going to approach this is let's go to our app.js. And you can see here that we've got our route to /pizzas/add, and then it renders the element pizza form. Well, what if we had route path to /pizzas/ and then the ID of our pizza, and then /edit in order to edit those pizzas. And it would then render this pizza form for us. And we could edit some things in that pizza form to make sure that it either added or edited. I think that's going to be the best way of doing this. So let's go ahead and just copy this line here, this add route that we've already got. I'm going to use Option Shift and down to do that. And what we'll do here is we will say route path /pizzas/ :id / and then edit. So if we go to /pizzas/ the ID of a pizza and then /edit, we will get this pizza form rendered again. So let's just save that and see if that works. So what we'll do is we'll go to /pizzas/ and then the ID of a pizza and then /edit. Fantastic. So we've actually got our pizza form being rendered here. Now, this isn't exactly as we would expect because it's still coming up with add a new pizza rather than edit a pizza. So let's make our first change here. So what we'll do is we'll send some information down to these components using something called props or properties. Now it's really easy to do that. So what we'll say here is, well, I think that the mode of, what should we call this prop? We should call it, I suppose, the mode, because is it in edit mode or is it in add mode? So what we'll do is we'll just inside our pizza form component, we will send mode equals, and then we'll send a string of, well, this is the add form, so we'll say add. And I'm using uppercase letters here, you know, kind of title case, and we'll see why in a moment. And then we'll also say here mode equals edit. Okay, so nothing will have changed just yet. But if we then head back to our pizza form, either in the sidebar or in the top here, we can then grab hold of, in the top of our function here, our pizza form function, we'll then be able to grab hold of that mode in here. So what we can do is we can destructure these props or properties that we're handing to our components by using curly brackets. So we'll just say mode here. Make sure that you spell it exactly the same as you did in the app.js. So mode and mode. So let's just now scroll down to that H1 where we're saying add a new pizza here. So what I want to do is let's remove this add a new here. And I'm going to add some curly brackets. And what we'll say here is mode. So it will now hopefully come up with either add pizza or edit pizza, depending on the mode, or which mode it's in. So let's save that. Okay, so we've got edit pizza. Now if I was to go and add a new pizza, so go to pizzas/add, should probably put an add pizza link up here in the nav. You'll see that even though we're rendering our pizza form, this has now changed to whatever we handed down into props. We will go into a little bit more detail in another video about exactly how props works. But for now, just know that you can take things from where you're rendering your components and you can pass information down into them with these props. We have used props before, actually. So in this link here, this too, because this is a React component, this link is a React component, this too is actually props, and we're handing these props down to our link component. So we have used them before. But here we're actually doing kind of a custom, something custom with our props. Fantastic. So next up, what we should probably do is make a little link element on our pizza detail page to go to our edit page, our pizza form edit. So let's go ahead to our pizza detail. We've used this link before. So what we'll do is we'll import link. Make sure that you've got the uppercase L from your React router DOM. And then down at the bottom here, just after our kind of heat rating, I'm going to add a link. We'll call this edit a pizza, or edit maybe this pizza, edit this pizza. And then where do we want to link it to? So we want to link it to /pizzas/ and then the ID of this pizza and then /edit. Okay, so we're going to need to do that with probably a template literal. So we'll need to input some JavaScript here. So we'll use curly brackets. And I'll use a template literal to say /pizzas, /pizzas, and then / and then we're going to input or insert the pizza dot underscore ID, because of course we've got the pizza available. We're using the pizza's details, kind of, the object, the pizza object everywhere on this page. We can just use it here as well. And then /edit. So if we save this and head back over to one of our pizzas, you'll see that we've got this edit this pizza link here. Let's make that styled a little bit nicer. So in here, I'm going to add a class name of button, and I want it to be yellow, so we'll say is -warning. Okay, let's save that now and head over here. Brilliant, that looks a little bit nicer. So if I click on this, well, if I hover over this now, you'll see in the bottom left corner of my browser window, it's going to tell me that we're going to end up going to /pizzas/ and then the ID of this pizza. And we can check that down here and up here if we really want, and then /edit. Oh, wonderful. So we've now come to our edit pizza, and it is the ID of this pizza, of that kind of buffalo pizza. It's not very user-friendly though, because all of this is blank. So we don't really know what we're going to be editing. Wouldn't it be nice if we made an API call to the backend to say, hey, get all of the details of the pizza and put them in this form for us? So I think the easiest way to do that is probably just to query whether we're on add or edit, and then just make that API call to the backend, just like we're doing on the pizza detail page. So let's open up our pizza detail page and have a look at what we're doing to actually get our pizza. So what we're doing is we're kind of just having a console.log, we're making the Axios request, we're logging it out, and then we're setting our pizza. And we do this in a use effect here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and pop it into our pizza form. So let's do this near the top. And I'm pasting it just below our form data because that's what we're going to be relating this to. So if we save this now, okay, so we've got some errors. So base URL is not defined, ID is not defined, set pizza is not defined, and use effect is not defined. Well, that's fine. We have just gone and copied a bunch of code from somewhere else that doesn't necessarily relate to where we've pasted it. So let's go through that methodically. First error, base URL is not defined, and that's here, base URL. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and grab that from our pizza detail, because this is where we're going to be making our call to. So back over to our pizza form, and I'm just going to save that up here. Okay, and we've got this in our console as well. So ID is not defined. Now the ID needs to get pulled from the URL bar. So what do we use for that? Well, we use the hook use params. We have done this before elsewhere, but let's go ahead and right at the top of here, we will say, well, first of all, we need to actually import it from React Router DOM. So we'll say use params. And then at the top of our component, we will say const and then destructure our params. And we'll say ID equals use params. And we'll save that. Brilliant. That has taken away one error, because now we have this ID here. Set pizza is not defined. Okay, so what do we actually want to change this to? Well, we want it to set our form, not our pizza data. We want to set our form data. So what we'll do is we'll say here, instead of set pizza, we will say set form data to our response.data. Save that, and then use effect is not defined, because we've just not imported it from React. So let's go ahead and do that and say use effect. Okay, so now let's see what our error is. This doesn't seem right. Let's just give that a refresh. There we go. It just needed a refresh to kind of get back into it. Okay, so now we're editing this pizza. We've got the pizza ID up here, but now look, all of our form data is, kind of set out to be whatever the pizza actually is. So if we're going and modifying bits of this, we know what we're actually changing. We know what it was before. So you can see that my autosuggest is showing me all of the things that I've tested before this lesson. But if I go ahead and change this to Buffalo-2, and we submit this, okay, that looks like it's worked. Fantastic, we've got this Buffalo-2 here. So let's head to our all pizzas and, oh wait, why is this still saying Buffalo and not Buffalo-2? Well, if we scroll down here, and you might not need to scroll down depending on how many pizzas you have, you see that it's actually added a new pizza called Buffalo-2. Now this is not what we wanted. We wanted to edit this Buffalo pizza here. So let's see why that's happening. So when we go to the edit form, we are getting this kind of edit pizza H1 here. So we know it's rendering the right thing. The problem we have is in the pizza form here, when we actually submit our pizzas, we're just going ahead and submitting, we're making a post request to this here. We're not actually submitting it to the edit endpoint of our app. We instead need to make it to the edit endpoint. Well, we can do this quite easily. We just need to put kind of an if statement inside this handle submit that says, well, if the mode is add, make the URL this. And if the mode is edit, make it a slightly different URL. So let's do that right here. So let's set our URL, we'll initialize our URL just to be an empty string. So we'll say let URL, because we're going to change this later, it needs to be a let variable. Let our URL equal just an empty string. We'll need to remove this const here to get rid of that error. But what we'll say is if our mode is equal to add, our URL should be this. Nothing should change. And I'm just doing this if on one line here. If you want to put curly brackets in to make it a code block, you go ahead. But then what we'll say is down here, if our mode is equal to edit instead, well, our URL should be, well, it should be our React backend fly.dev/API/pizza, and then it should be /the ID of the pizza, and then /edit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this because this is set up to be a template literal anyway, and paste this here. And what we want to do is we want to kind of insert just after our pizza here, we want it to say / and then the ID of our pizza. So we can just use the ID here because we're destructuring our ID from our params up here. I'll just scroll back down so that you can see that a little bit easier. We've got our ID there, and then /edit. And of course, we'll still need our student key in order to edit one of our own pizzas. So if we save this now and come back to our app, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our all pizzas and our Buffalo here, edit this pizza, and I'm just going to say edited, maybe, just like that. Submit this now, and okay, we've been shown to the pizza detail page for this new pizza or this edited pizza. But if we head to all pizzas, you'll see that we have actually updated that original resource. We've not created a new one. There is no new Buffalo pizza down here, but we've instead edited or updated the existing resource in the database.